What better time of year is it for chili than fall? You've got the leaves falling and changing color. You've got Halloween quickly approaching. Football season is in full fledged, and the weather is getting colder. Not necessarily today, it's unseasonably warm, but nonetheless, we're making some leftover brisket chili. Today, we're gonna get the brisket started. I got this brisket trimmed, ready to go. We're gonna smoke it overnight. We'll get it wrapped up, but we're gonna wanna keep the temperature lower on this brisket than normal because we're gonna put it in a chili. So first things first, we gotta get this brisket seasoned. It's already trimmed, so we're gonna use mustard as our binder. We're gonna use salt and pepper as our seasoning, keeping it simple. We're gonna get all that flavor out of the chili. No need to overdo it at this point. The salt pepper ratio is 3:1, so it's 3 parts pepper, 1 part salt. So let's get to it. In the Timberline XL here, we've got a drip tray just to keep it nice and clean. A lot easier that way. Even though this thing cleans super quick, super easy, I always like to be a little bit careful. I'm also gonna throw some water in there too. That'll keep the brisket nice and moist. All right, so we're gonna take this brisket, throw it on. I'll end up dumping some water into that drip pan, and we're gonna let it sit for that 3 hours, and we'll see you in a bit. All right guys, it's 6:30 in the morning. We've had this Timberline XL smoking this brisket for about 10 hours now at 200 degrees. The first 3 or 4 hours, we had it on super smoke. We took that off. We've been letting it rip. The bark looks good. I just checked the temperature with my ThermaPen 1. I was able to get the temperature in a second with that thing. Awesome product. We're actually not gonna wrap it because it's going in chili. I'm not too concerned about the juiciness of it. However, that being said, we don't want that brisket to get dry. So we're gonna keep an eye on it. I'm shooting for about the 185, 190 degree mark. That way we can get this brisket off, let it sit, cube it up, and then get it in the chili. But first, we gotta wait for the sun to rise and the brisket to cook all the way through. We'll see you guys in a bit. All right guys, so we're actually on day 3 of this chili cook. Day 2 didn't go as expected. The outdoor stove that we made out of 24.5-inch semi-tires took a little bit longer. The welding process, getting it burned down, getting the paint cleaned out of it, it just took a little bit longer. So our brisket came off yesterday at 185 degrees. It's been sitting in the fridge since. So this video might be more of how we can use brisket that's left over. First things first though, we gotta get this stove heated up. All right, so our chimney is hot, it's ripping. You may be able to see a little bit of those heat waves over there. We got a few pieces of oak to get us started. I'm gonna go ahead, dump this in, and we'll see how quickly this thing warms up. All right, and we'll give it a few to actually get started. All right, so we got some smoke. We got some heat rolling up top already just from that little bit. The wood hasn't even caught yet. I'm gonna get that cauldron out here, set on, and I'm gonna give it a little oil seasoning on the inside just to be prepped up and ready. All right, now that our stove is ripping, our pot is hot, we're gonna start adding ingredients little by little. All right, so now that our bacon is nice and crispy, we're gonna go ahead and take that out. We're gonna use a slotted spoon to keep that bacon grease in there for the onions. All right, since the bacon's out, we're gonna go ahead and toss in our onions. All right, now that our onion's translucent, we're gonna go ahead and add garlic and our red bell pepper. All right, we're gonna mix these in and wait till we get that fragrant garlic and our red peppers get a little bit soft. The next thing we're gonna add is our seasonings. I got some paprika and some cumin, and I also have chili peppers and adobo. I took about 3 of them out of the can, chopped them up real fine, and we're tossing those in. We want that brisket and bacon to start getting warmed back up. So we're gonna do that, we'll mix it back up, get all that flavoring wrapped around it, and then we'll start adding our tomato sauce, tomato paste, corn, beans, stuff like that. We wanna mix this seasoning real good. We're gonna get it full of that oil. We're gonna get it fragrant. Once you could really start smelling that seasoning, go ahead and start adding some beer to it. And we're gonna reduce that beer to burn off all the alcohol, but it'll keep it a nice flavor. Because I'm making a quadruple batch of what I normally do, we're adding 4 beers. I'm using Great Lakes Christmas Ale. I feel like it gives it an extra little bit of flavor. Now with this beer added, we got to get it to a rolling boil to actually reduce the alcohol out of it. On this, it's probably going to take a minute, so we'll be back in a few. Now that we've got that meat a little bit warm, we're going to add in some more stuff. We got coffee. For the beans and corn, we're going to want to make sure we drain the cans. So we got kidney beans. We got corn. We got black beans. Tomato sauce. Here I'm using 4 cans since we got a big pot. Quadruple recipe. We got 4 cans of diced tomatoes. And last but not least, a can of green chilies. Now that we've added all our ingredients, we're gonna wanna sit here, stir it up real good, turn around, and let it go for at least a half an hour. But I say the longer the better. I'm hoping for like 2 or 3 hours before we even taste it on this one. Now at any point, if the chili seems like it's too thick, you could always add some water to it to cut it down. All right, so we're 2 hours into this chili boiling. I've been mixing it. I'm gonna give it one last stir, then I'm gonna give it a taste. All right, so now that we let this spoonful cool down a bit, we're gonna go ahead and try it. Still hot. So that chili is breaking that brisket down. We're at a good rate right now. It's a good thing we kept it at about 185, the pull-off temp of that brisket. It didn't let that all break down and get super tender how you normally want a brisket. Actually, the first time I made a brisket chili, I cooked it all the way up to like 205, and that really sent it over. So when I cooked the chili and it was in there, it was boiling, it really, the brisket was like breaking down into like more of a mush than actually having chunks, and I want those chunks. So I definitely say keep it around 185 when you pull it off. Other than that, the sauce is pretty thick. It's super flavorful. All right, so I am gonna add some water to this. Since it is boiling and rendering down, it's getting pretty thick. I wanna keep it a little bit lighter. The flavors are there though, so I don't wanna add too much. I'm just gonna add a little bit at a time. It's probably a couple cups there, so we'll mix it up and we'll see where we're at in a few minutes. All right guys, I think it's about time we're done with this chili. I'm gonna take one more spoonful, test it out. Need to make sure I get some brisket in there. And we're gonna let this cool down once again because it's a little bit hot still. All right, now that the scoop is cooled down, let's give it a try. Got some bacon in that bite. It's a good flavor to it. The brisket has cooked down significantly. It's perfect. It's fall apart in your mouth, but you still have the cubes. It's not broken. It's not shredded. There's still cubes of brisket in there. The consistency is where I want it. It's still liquid, but you know, it's thick. Overall, it's pretty good. If you guys like my take on brisket chili, and you want to see some more outdoor cooking over some live fire with this makeshift outdoor stove, make sure you hit that like, make sure you hit follow, make sure you subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell below for notifications on new videos of mine. Have a good one, guys.